Imagine you have $1,000 in your bank account. How would you split it up? Well, there's a popular budgeting guideline called the 50-30-20 rule. Allocate 50% of your income to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. But does this really work for everyone? Let's break it down with some real numbers. Your rent or mortgage is typically your biggest expense. Let's say it's $600 per month. That's half of a budget where 50% is allocated to necessities, right there. Now what about utilities? Let's estimate another $150. So we're at $750 already for just needs. But wait, you need food too. Even if you're a frugal eater, let's say groceries cost around $250 per month. That's now up to $950 out of your $1,000 budget. You can see where this is going. Needs are already maxed out. So what about wants? Let's say you want to treat yourself to a fancy coffee each day. At an average of $4 per day, that's $120 per month. Add in another few $100s for entertainment or hobbies. That leaves very little left for savings if you stick rigidly to the 50-30-20 rule. The real trick is adjusting your needs and wants without sacrificing your financial goals. For example, reducing expenses such as dining out can free up funds for discretionary spending and saving. However, the fundamental concept remains valid. Prioritize essential expenditures first, then allocate money to personal desires responsibly and save what remains. Now here's a mythbuster. Many people believe they need to spend 50% of their income on necessities after housing costs are covered. That's not always the case. You can adjust this based on your life situation. If you live in an affordable area, you might only need to allocate 40% for necessities and can put more into savings. So how do you actually implement the 50-30-20 rule? Start by tracking all your expenses for a month. List everything you spend money on, including rent, utilities, groceries, entertainment, debts, and other categories. Once you have this list, categorize each item as need, want, or save. For example, let's say you're spending $400 a month on debt repayments and subscriptions. That's your fixed costs right there. Next, allocate 20% to savings. So if you're making $3,000 a month, that would be $600 for savings, not $500 as might be calculated mistakenly based on a different allocation rule. Now comes the tough part, cutting back on discretionary expenses without sacrificing your quality of life. Perhaps you realize that dining out frequently is costly, and you could save money by cooking more meals at home. Additionally, reducing expenditures on other forms of entertainment can help boost your savings without significantly impacting your enjoyment of leisure activities. Let's dive into some real-world examples. Sarah makes $4,000 a month. Her rent is $1,200, utilities are $300, groceries are $600, car payment is $300, and student loans are $500. That's already $2,900 in needs. She wants to save 20%, so that's another $800, bringing her total expenses to $3,700. But Sarah also spends a considerable amount on coffee, eating out, and subscriptions, around $700 a month combined. This is an area where adjustments can be made. Reducing her dining out expenses in half could potentially free up approximately $350 for savings or other financial priorities. Now let's talk about the hidden maths. A small adjustment in spending can have a big impact over time. If you save just an extra 1% of your income each month and invest it wisely with compound interest, that can grow to significantly more in your retirement fund over decades due to the power of compounding. But if you spend that money on fleeting desires instead, those dollars vanish without a trace. Another tip, use budgeting apps to track and categorize expenses automatically. These tools can help you adhere to the 50-30-20 guideline by visualizing where your income is allocated each month. But here's an important reality check. The 50-30-20 budget isn't a magic fix for overspending or debt. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's crucial to address underlying issues like high rent or credit card debts first. It's okay to adjust the percentages to fit your specific financial situation better. For instance, if you're deep in debt, consider bumping up your savings temporarily to build an emergency fund. Alternatively, if your housing costs are excessive and cutting into essential spending, look for ways to reduce these expenses, such as moving to a more affordable location or negotiating lower rent with your landlord. Behavioral finance highlights how our brains often make emotional decisions instead of rational ones when dealing with money. For instance, you might feel guilty about cutting back on leisure activities, while simultaneously not feeling as pressed to pay off debt. A tip: set up automatic transfers for savings and debt payments right after your paycheck is deposited. This way, you do not even have the opportunity to spend that money first. Now let's look at the long-term benefits. If you consistently follow the 50-30-20 budget guidelines over many years, it can help build financial security. By allocating funds towards savings and investments, you are less likely to fall into debt traps or miss important opportunities like buying a home due to poor financial planning. But here's the counterintuitive part: the boring option quietly beats the exciting one every single time. Consistent saving and investing outperform schemes for quick riches. Trust in simple, reliable strategies. So back to our example, Sarah adjusts her budget to 45% needs, 20% wants, and 35% savings. She cuts dining out by half and reduces subscriptions. Over a year, this could save her around $1,800 extra for savings or debt reduction, depending on her initial spending habits. Think about the power of compound interest here. If Sarah invests just that extra $1,800 annually in an index fund averaging around 7% over the long term, after 10 years she'd have approximately $24,500 more than if she spent it all now, assuming no additional contributions and a constant rate of return for simplicity. Now, what about those who argue they can't save any money? The reality is that most people can find ways to free up cash through budget adjustments. Even small changes, like switching phone plans or reducing spending on streaming services, can make a significant difference over time. But here's the part the industry doesn't always highlight: financial products and advice often come with fees that can reduce your returns. Always read the fine print, compare different options, and ask questions before choosing any product or service. In conclusion, the 50-30-20 budget is not a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a powerful tool for managing your finances effectively. This approach involves allocating 50% of your income to necessities, 30% to wants, and saving at least 20%. By prioritizing essential expenses first, spending responsibly on discretionary items, and consistently setting aside funds for savings or debt repayment, you can work towards building long-term financial security and wealth. Quick reminder: this channel is financial education, not financial advice. Do your own research, and for decisions about your money, talk to a licensed professional. This has been the Money Files. Let's dive deeper into the 50-30-20 budget framework. First up, essentials, those non-negotiable expenses that need to be covered before anything else. Essentials include rent or mortgage payments, utilities, groceries, insurance premiums, and minimum debt payments. If these costs exceed half of your income, it's time to reassess your living situation or find ways to reduce fixed expenses. Next are wants, which make up 30% of your budget. Wants can vary widely, such as dining out, entertainment, hobbies, travel, and luxury items. The key is to prioritize spending on things that bring you joy without causing financial strain. For example, instead of buying expensive gadgets or clothing each month, allocate a smaller amount for experiences like concerts, museum visits, or local events. Savings and debt repayment make up the final 20% of the budget. This portion should be allocated between building an emergency fund and paying down high-interest debts. An emergency fund can protect you from unexpected expenses without accruing credit card debt, while reducing your debt load decreases interest payments over time. Aim to save at least 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses in your emergency fund. One common mistake is treating savings as a luxury instead of a priority. To ensure you prioritize saving, automate your savings and contributions to retirement accounts, such as an IRA or 401(k). Set up automatic transfers from your checking account shortly after payday to avoid the temptation to spend this money elsewhere. Another important aspect of the 50-30-20 budget is flexibility. Life circumstances can change, and sometimes you'll need to adjust the percentages within categories. For instance, if a large unexpected expense arises, you might temporarily shift funds from the wants or savings categories into essentials until your finances stabilize again. Finally, it's crucial to track your progress regularly. Use tools like spreadsheets or budgeting apps to monitor how much you're spending in each category and make necessary adjustments. Regularly reviewing your budget helps you stay accountable and adapt to changes in income or expenses, ensuring that your financial plan remains effective over time. In conclusion, the 50-30-20 budget isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, but a powerful tool for managing your finances effectively. By prioritizing essential expenses first, indulging in discretionary spending responsibly, and saving consistently, you can build long-term financial security and wealth. Remember to stay flexible with the guidelines, track your progress diligently, and consider seeking professional advice when needed. This is educational and historical, not financial advice. One common mistake people make with the 50-30-20 budget is treating it as a strict rule rather than a guideline. For instance, if you're heavily in debt, you might need to shift your spending towards savings to prioritize paying off that debt faster. Conversely, if you have no debt but are saving for major life events like buying a home or retirement, you might want to allocate more than 20% of your income to savings. Another key aspect is understanding the difference between true needs and perceived needs. For example, many people consider their morning coffee to be essential, but it falls under the wants category rather than necessities. Cutting back on such non-essential items can help you save hundreds of dollars a month. Moreover, the beauty of the 50-30-20 budget lies in its simplicity and adaptability. It's easy to adhere to because you're not constrained by complex rules or required to track every single transaction meticulously. The flexibility allows you to adjust as your financial situation changes without becoming overwhelmed. Remember, no one knows your financial life better than you do. If the 50-30-20 budget doesn't fit perfectly, adjust it until it works for you. Whether you're just starting out, dealing with unexpected expenses, or planning for significant purchases, this budget can serve as a reliable guide to help manage your finances effectively. Ultimately, the goal is not just to follow a formula, but to build sustainable financial habits that last over time. Mastering your finances now sets you up for greater financial security and peace of mind in the future. This is educational and historical, not financial advice.